Hi, everyone. Boy, this has been quite the video to try and get out, get done, and then produce and actually get it out to you guys. I'm going to try and go through this really, really fast. So, like my pastor says, you got to listen fast, okay? So I'm just going to be spitting it out, guys. All right. And like before, I've told you I like to print my stuff out so I don't forget anything. I don't get jumbled up. Well, things are certainly moving quite fast. I can hardly catch up and keep up. For example, I was hoping that this video would be the one of the topic of aliens, which I definitely need to get to here pretty quick. But 3 weeks ago, as I started to gather my information for the video, so much was happening regarding Israel, I just couldn't ignore it or put it off until later. So it only makes sense that I address these things first, since Israel is God's prophetic timepiece anyway. What I want to do is update you on these events because they seem to relate to the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 38, otherwise known as the War of Gog of Magog. Things have been quickly shifting, and it looks like the main players of a game are being positioned so that when the time is right, they just go. It looks like the elements are getting ready, being set, so that when the time is right, they just go. Ready, set, go. And if you've been a part of my thread for a while, or this thread, you will be familiar with the terms the War of Gog of Magog or the Ezekiel 38 War, being one and the same. But I think that although you may be familiar with the terms themselves, you might not actually know what it's really all about, besides that it's a war, obviously. So my goal isn't just to throw news articles or world news at you with no biblical reference, because the whole purpose of this thread and these videos is to point you to the Bible. So allow me to quickly read different verses to you from Ezekiel chapter 38. Verses 2 through 6. Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I am against you, O Gog, prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal, and I will turn you around, put hooks into your jaws, lead you out with all your army, horses, and horsemen, all splendidly clothed, a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, Persia, Cush, and Put with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer with all its troops, Beth Togarmah from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. And now I'm going to ask you to jump to verses 10 through 13 of the same chapter. This is what the sovereign Lord says. On that day, thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and without gates and bars. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living at the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages, or young lions, will say to you, Have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hoards to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize much plunder? That is all for those verses. Listen, guys, these are words from the Bible. These words were written a little less than 600 years before Christ, telling us about events that were yet to come. Yet here we are, 2,600 years later, and these words sure do sound like they're coming off of the front page of our news, as you will see. This is astonishing to me. It's remarkable because it goes to show how reliable the Bible is time and time again. And for the naysayers out there, I lovingly warn you, every prophecy about the Lord's first coming was fulfilled, literally and exact. Therefore, we can confidently say that every prophecy concerning the Lord's second return will also be fulfilled literally and exact. And I believe that the parts and the players are, in our time today, quickly moving into position for these prophecies to be fulfilled. Yes, I believe we are at the tail end of the last days. Now, to sum it up, Ezekiel 38 describes a coalition of nations coming against Israel in the last days, yet it also mentions a few other nations that appear to cry out a lame protest. I say lame because in the verse, it just says that they call out the invaders, but they don't actually do anything about the invasion. This leaves some to even speculate that these lame protesters in the end actually might be so intrigued by the spoil that they join in the battle to benefit for themselves. Unless you think that they just call out the invaders and then just sit back and do nothing for their neighbor Israel. Only God knows. But let me show you who these players are, because as of right now, you probably have no clue who Cush and Put are, or who Sheba and Dedan are, and who Tarshish is, okay? So let me go to the board. For this, guys, I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I don't think I can see this. All right. So, I don't know if you guys can see. I'm trying to include you guys in this. There. Okay. It's going to work with it. All right. So, names were mentioned. We have Gog. I'll come back to that one. We have the land of Magog, which is Central Asia and the state, the countries that I call the stands. That would be like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, all the stands. That's what land of Magog would include. The next one is Rosh. Rosh is Russia. Meshech and Tubal are Turkey. What is this? Persia. Persia is the easiest one. I could tell you without a shadow of a doubt, it's Iran today, because Persia just changed. Iran had changed their names from Persia just last century, which was like 1935-ish or so. The next one is Cush. Cush is the Sudan, and also the Bible specifically says that Sudan is south of Egypt. It's not necessarily Ethiopia. I know some of your Bibles might say Ethiopia, but historians and research have looked into it further, and they said that it's not what we call Ethiopia today. Okay, and that's not the word that was used there originally anyway. Put is Libya, which the Bible says is west of Egypt. That one is for sure Libya. Gomer is Turkey. Beth Togarmah, Turkey. Now, these are the coalition of the nations that are going to come against Israel in that Ezekiel 38 war, okay? Which is the war of Gog of Magog. So let me go back to Gog. Gog is not a place. It is reference. God treats him and talks to him like if he's a person. So he's some sort of a prince, a leader. Some even say that the way that he's mentioned in other parts of the Bible, that he's like a spirit, a demon, indwelling in the human that is going to do these things, okay? So that's all the ones coming against Israel in this Ezekiel 38 war. Now, this part here, do you see them all? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to carry it the whole time. But let's start here. Sheba and Dedan, it says that they make a lame protest. These are the ones that make a lame protest, okay? So somehow, at some point, these are going to be friendly with Israel, or some sort of a relationship with Israel, because they call out, as you heard in the scripture. Sheba is Saudi Arabia, okay? And the Arabian Peninsula. Dedan would be considered Yemen, Qatar, and the UAE areas, which UAE is the United Arab Emirates, okay? Tarshish is Spain. Merchants of Tarshish are a conglomeration, and some Bible versions are going to say merchants of Tarshish, others are going to say the villages and her villages, meaning Tarshish and her villages. Others will say Tarshish and her young lions. Okay, so this conglomeration of young lions or villages are of Western powers, including Europe, Great Britain, and others. Now, I don't know. I'm just going to throw this in there. Some people might even want to include the U.S. there, but there's no for sure way of knowing that we would be included in there. Okay? All right, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to still keep it here so you guys can refer to it if you want to as I'm talking. All right. So let's continue. As you can see here, by this we can have a general idea of who the portrayers are of this coming war. As you can see, they are the nations of Russia, Turkey, Iran, and Libya. And so Saudi Arabia and others are important. Okay, these are the important nations now. Let me take this off again. All right. And let's see, lo and behold, it is interesting to note that the Abraham Accords that started in 2020, if you guys are familiar with it, during the Trump administration, seem to include some of the very nations mentioned down here as the protesters. As of this moment, accords have been signed with Bahrain, with Morocco, and the UAE, which is the United Arab Emirates, again. But the first protester right here that we have, Sheba, is Saudi Arabia. They don't have an accord signed with Israel, okay? At least not yet. So let's, we're going to be getting into that. But before I get into Saudi Arabia, you do need to know the basics of what the Abraham Accords are. I'm trying to, I don't want to say educate, although we are at Ivy League Academy here, where the children learn. But I do want you to be informed as to what this is in case for those of you out there that don't know specifics of the Abraham Accords. Maybe you just heard them, but you really don't know what it involves or what it's about. Okay, in short, just real quick, these are normalization agreements, okay? They're not peace agreements. Okay, that's important to keep that in mind. Not peace agreements, normalization agreements. This is important to note because these accords ask much of Israel, but not of the other party. Israel makes concessions, but the other nation hardly does, if any. All Israel wants, guys, is for her neighbors, okay, in at least the moderate Arab states, because she's surrounded by Arab states, to acknowledge her existence. Israel has been surrounded by states that hate her, and they deny her existence so much as to not even have her on the maps as Israel, but as Palestine. Others just flat out attack her constantly. We'll get into that. There has not been peace in the Middle East ever since the day Israel was reborn in May of 1948. Look it up, guys. Like literally, I want to say, if memory serves me right, they got into battle hours after the paper was signed. I don't even think the ink was dried after becoming a nation that they went into war with neighboring states. And you can look that up. Anyway, continuing. In turn, for acknowledging her existence, meaning Israel, in the Abraham Accords, Israel agrees to open up the 4 T's. That is trade, travel, tourism, and technology. Israel and the USA are consistently trying to add more states to the accords. And it seems, guys, that there is a really big fish that they want to catch, and that would be Saudi Arabia. Everyone knows that, okay? Especially the US and especially Israel. And by golly, who do you think is seriously considering joining the Abraham Accords? Yeah, Saudi Arabia. Now, keep in mind that Saudi Arabia, please remember this, Saudi Arabia is a strong supporter of Palestine and has spent a lot of time funding the causes against Israel. But she's not dumb, okay? She knows she would benefit so much from Israel. Guys, Israel is blessed beyond measure in all ways imaginable and will continue to be blessed. And Israel is the strongest military force in the Middle East, both literally and spiritually. Thank God for that. And the surrounding nations can see it and they want to be a part of it. Some of them seemingly amicably, as with the Accords, but others will not play nice, as Ezekiel 38 has told us. One of the other reasons that Saudi Arabia can even be talking about normalizations with Israel is given their shared animosity with Iran. Yep, there's Iran. Saudi Arabia has Sunni Muslims and Iran has the radical Shia Muslims, and each respectively is vying themselves to be the true Muslims. This fight has been going on since Islam was established a millennia and a half ago. Right now, of the 3 important mosques of the religion, 2, Mecca and Medina, are in Saudi Arabian control. The 3rd is on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem in Israel, secured by the IDF. IDF is the Israeli Defense Forces. But custodianship of that Temple Mount was granted to Jordan. That is a neighboring state of Israel, towards the southwest. Yeah, southwest. No, southeast. I'm sorry, southeast. After that was granted to them after the War of 1967, also known as the 6-Day War. In that 6-Day War, Israel seized, listen to this, guys, it's going to be important. Israel seized Jerusalem, okay, because when she was given the nationhood in 1948, she was not given Jerusalem. It was a very small piece. But because these nations went into war with her, she fought back, and guess what? She won. Not a surprise, guys. Okay, so they seized Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, the so-called West Bank. We as Christians should not be referring to it as West Bank. We say West Bank because everybody knows it as West Bank, but West is west of Jordan. Jordan is not God's people. It's Israel. So if anything, it should be the East Bank, but literally it's Judea and Samaria is what that area is, not the West Bank. But anyway, they seized control of the West Bank, also the Gaza Strip, and the Sinai Peninsula, which is over by Egypt. But to make a long story short, many were not happy, okay? So to keep the peace with her neighbor, the prime minister at the time of Israel, which I want to say is Ben Gurion, okay? He was an atheist. He could care less about the Temple Mount. He could care less about Judaism, okay? He made such a deal which devastated all the Orthodox Jews. I think they only had 7 days from when they seized control of Jerusalem that the Orthodox Jews ran up there to pray, to, just relish in being able to be back on that land of the Temple Mount. And 7 days later, it was given the authority to the Jordanians. Saudi Arabia knows that if part of the deal, okay, if it's part of a deal, Israel would be able to transfer custodianship to them. And then they would have all 3 mosques of Islam. I find it absolutely important that on August 9th, so now we're getting into more recent stuff. On August 9th, Saudi Arabia and the U.S. agreed on the general outline for normalized relations with Israel, which included the Temple Mount. And of course, Saudi Arabia is asking for assistance from the United States with help in building a civilian nuclear reactor, which I would think would be to defend themselves from Iran. Although Saudi Arabia is also seeking help from China, Russia, and France for that nuclear reactor, this is just pressuring the United States more to make this deal happen with Israel. If the United States manages to pull off this agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia, they see it as a feather in Biden's cap for the coming elections. I can see it now. Biden brings peace to the Middle East. What more could you want? But it's not just Biden that wants this deal to happen. Netanyahu, which is Israel's prime minister now, is also pushing to accomplish this great feat for the simple reason of peace, guys, peace. Now, I can understand why Israel wants an agreement with Saudi Arabia. I just did not know how much they were willing to give up for it. But the Bible tells us about this, okay? On Tuesday, which is now 4 days ago, more information was released about this possible agreement. Since Saudi Arabia is a strong supporter for the Palestinians, they, and the U.S., have made it abundantly clear to Israel that part of this deal must include concessions to the Palestinians. In fact, it is being said that if Israel wants this normalization with Saudi Arabia, they would also have to give up the West Bank to Jordan. Okay, so I hope you're keeping these names, organized in order for you to understand what's going on. However, Jerusalem would be released in its entirety to Israel, meaning Jerusalem, which includes the Temple Mount, and that is big. I think Israel is looking at that as in, we'll give up land to have Jerusalem, which has the Temple Mount, for them to have it back for them, for themselves, and control of it. The Bible is very clear about dividing the land of Israel, guys. I can't see anything good coming from this, okay? But anyway, let's continue. If this is agreed to, Jordan would change its name to the United Kingdom of Palestine. In that instance, the Palestinians would have a nation. And, okay, so in writing, this might make sense. It might be something that maybe non-Christians would say, yeah, let's just do this for peace. Everybody's great. I mean, Jordan already has an actual peace agreement with Israel from 1994. Therefore, adding the West Bank to it would mean that peace would now include the West Bank, right? Okay. Where there's, there at the West Bank, where there's been an ongoing battle between Israel and the Palestinians over who can claim it. So sure, that'll work because we all know how peaceful Jordan has been towards Israel and how it turned out last time Israel agreed to an eerie similar deal involving the Gaza Strip. Yeah, sure. Back in 1994 with the Oslo Accords. That worked out real good. Well, I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my tone. You guys, I don't have time to get into that part of it. But let me just say one word. Hamas. Okay, I think that pretty much spells it all out for you. One of Iran's many proxies is Hamas. And they now control the Gaza Strip. Okay? And are continually, constantly shelling out missiles, attacks towards Israel. So yeah, this same idea for the West Bank sounds like it would be perfect. Yeah, they're gonna totally go for it. Okay. Now, let me just think out loud here. Could such an agreement involving the Temple Mount and dividing Israel's land in exchange for peace be a precursor? Could this pave the way for the Antichrist's future covenant with the many, meaning Israel and her neighbors? Could that be? Maybe the covenant that he enforces because the Palestinians don't even want the Jews to exist, let alone have peace with them. And Iran can't seem to stop their incessant attempts at annihilating the Jews. I wonder if because they don't stop their fighting and attacks and there is no peace after making this monumental accord with Saudi Arabia, if in the future this would be like the perfect covenant that then the Antichrist confirms and assures that Israel can have peace. I don't know. It's just a thought, guys. Just a thought. Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry. I think I got rid of that one. Quickly. Let me just mention something else that came down about 2 to 3 weeks ago now. Yeah, sorry, it's been that long since I was supposed to make this video. Okay, here's the story. There was some sort of an international meeting in Rome with many, at which the Libyan foreign minister and the Israeli foreign minister happened to be. The story goes that in a chance passing, nothing official, like in the hallway or something, these two foreign ministers talked about the possibility of their two nations also having some sort of normalization agreement. You know, so that Libya could also benefit from Israel's wealth and prosperity. Well, if you're looking at the board, where does Libya fall, guys? Where does Libya fall? Put. Where do we put Libya? Where do we put? Okay, anyway, going back, seriously. Well, almost immediately, riots broke out in Tripoli and throughout all of Libya for this almost unofficial conversation in like a hallway, guys. Riots broke out all through Libya and even in its political spectrum. Libya supports the Palestinian state and considers Jerusalem the capital to Palestine and does not even recognize Israel in any facet, in no facet. In fact, it is actually illegal. Listen to this. It is actually illegal under Libyan law to even hold discussions with any Israeli or Zionist state officials, let alone have any kind of normalizations. So the Libyan foreign minister has been accused of grand treason just for talking in the hallway, guys. And she had to flee for her life. Guess where she went? To Turkey. Of course, to Turkey. Libya and Turkey have strong ties, and Turkey's Erdogan, which is the president, has assured Libya that they will even get stronger in their ties and their alliance. Remember, these two are part of the Ezekiel 38 war. And since I've already mentioned Iran a few times, I think I have. Well, no, they're not going to be signing any normalization. There is no talk of Iran having any kind of normalization or accord with Israel. Quite the opposite. The only thing they're dreaming about is the day that the Jews no longer exist. They want to push them and into the Mediterranean Sea and be done with them completely. Too bad for them, okay? Too bad for them to think that they can actually accomplish that. Because in contrast, the Bible actually says that Israel will not cease to exist from being a nation unless the sun, the moon, and the stars stop shining. So, my money's on God, okay? But don't forget that Iran also is a part of the Ezekiel 38 war, okay? Along with all the other ones. Probably one of the biggest players, okay? I should stress that Iran has many proxies throughout the Middle East. Literally, okay? Surrounding Israel at all fronts. Even though they themselves, if you look at a map, do not have any borders. They don't share any borders with Israel, okay? They are within arm's reach at any given moment by way of their proxies. And their proxies include Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Islamic Jihad, the PLO, which is the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the Shia militias, and of course, they have their own IRGC, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which includes the Quds Force. All right, so here are some updates, guys. Right now, Hezbollah is at the brink of war with Israel and has tents at the northern border inside Israeli territory. I hope you understood that. Okay, this is one of the proxies, which means it's Israel. Iran inside of Israel through Hezbollah. Another one, Iran has a supersonic ballistic missile. I even think it says Israel on it. That's how horrible, how bad they want to get rid of Israel. I think that supersonic ballistic missile has Israel's name on the side, and it carries a nuclear warhead that is Mach 5. That is 5 times the speed of sound. Okay, it can diffuse, destroy, and avoid missile defense systems. I'm wondering if that would mean it also can avoid the Iron Dome. That's kind of scary, guys. That is scary. And it can reach Israel in 400 seconds. Guys, I did the math on this. 400 seconds. I mean, who talks like that? 400 seconds. I did the math to see how many minutes that is, and you're not going to believe this. Not going to believe it. It comes out to 6.66 minutes. Get a calculator. Do it yourself. 400 seconds divided by those 60. Okay, I'm telling you. Yeah. Anyway, another one. And I've mentioned this one before, how Russia, Turkey, and Iran have been increasingly chummy. I've mentioned that before, guys. But at the moment, it is important for you to understand that all three of those, okay, Russia, Turkey, and Iran have military presence right now in Syria. Syria borders Israel from the north. Interesting fact, the Bible says that Gog of Magog, that war, is going to come in from the north into Israel. Just an interesting fact. Another one. On Monday, yes, this Monday, a few days ago, on Monday, Biden negotiated with these terrorists, Iran, and in exchange for prisoners that they have of ours, we will release prisoners that we have of theirs. Sounds fair, right? Well, I guess that would be fair until you hear the rest of it. You see, we are also releasing $6 billion to them along with the release of the prisoners. They're not giving us any money or releasing any money or anything of that sort. We're releasing it to them. $6 billion. That, in my opinion, it's criminal, guys. To me, it's plain criminal, because everyone knows you do not negotiate with a terrorist, because they'll just do it again. Everybody knows that, okay? Now they got the taste that we kidnap people, we kidnap Americans, we get money, all the money. And Biden is so delusional to even say, maybe even assure in his delusional mind, okay, that Iran is only going to use that money, spend that money on humanitarian purposes, okay? What? Are you kidding me? How dumb can we be? Those people are not humanitarian, okay? They're not. Not even with their own kind. Hence, Saudi Arabia. Okay. What a joke. As I said, a joke. Raisi already came out practically the same day, okay? And said that they're going to use those $6 billion wherever they need it. And where do you suppose that they need it the most? Bingo! To further their efforts in eliminating Israel. And as if this were a movie that we're watching, it was just revealed on that same Monday, which when I'm saying Monday, I'm talking about 9/11 Monday, this Monday that just passed. All of this happened on Monday. Okay, guys, I'll tell you later at the end of this video, because I've been working on this, and I actually recorded this video already for you on Monday during the day, And I made some changes to it, and I'll let you know later. But all this came in after I did that video. So this is new stuff that was not included in that first video. Okay, anyway. Okay, only God knows why. The Iranian regime literally is building a terror air base, literally, and I know I keep saying that word, literally, on the Israel-Lebanon border, only 12 miles from Matula, Israel, and it will be used by Iran's lethal proxy, Hezbollah. Now, this is in the border of Israel and Lebanon, okay? That's not Syria, guys, okay? Can I add that Lebanon and Gaza might as well, just for easiness reason, Lebanon and Gaza might as well just be called Iran, okay? It would be easier just for me to say Iran, because to avoid the confusion, those two places are ran by Iran, are being run by Iran. Jumbling it up now. Okay, you know what I mean. And they are working hard to do the same to Syria. Okay, they are putting these proxies in Syria because they want the same result and control that they have in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon to be in Syria. Okay, and then at that point they have total advantage over Israel. That's why there's so much conflict in Syria regarding Israel. And I've mentioned this before, if you guys remember messages that I've sent you before. Syria should sound familiar to you guys, as in Damascus, Syria, as in Damascus, the one that gets destroyed as stated in the Bible in, I believe, Isaiah chapter 17. Check it out, guys. It's in there. Anyway, Israel has warned the world, meaning the United Nations, and made it clear that they will not allow Iran to take over Syria the way that they did Lebanon and Gaza, and that they will defend themselves, even preemptively. That means, preemptively means to strike before being attacked upon. Hence, if you see in the news, hence, the multiple stories you probably hear of Israel striking Syria. And I've sent those to you before. It's an ongoing thing. And Damascus, okay? So every time I would see that Damascus was being hit by Israel, I would always send it to you guys. And that's still constantly happening even today, like literally this week. It's still going on, and it's continued to go on. You'll hear of strikes in Syria, Damascus, the airport. You'll be hearing that all the time. This is all against Hezbollah's attempt from Israel. Israel is trying to strike Hezbollah, not the people of Syria. Please understand that. It's not the people of Syria. It's Hezbollah. And Hezbollah hides their bombs or whatever it is that they have underneath the airport, under schools, under hospitals. They're very, trust me guys, they're not humanitarian, okay? Iran is not humanitarian. This is in Hezbollah's attempt to take over Syria the way that they took over Lebanon and the Gaza for the sole purpose of eliminating Israel, okay? Israel has told the United Nations about those tents and now about the terror airbase, but the UN has done nothing, and I suspect they won't do anything anyway. I'm not surprised. They are so anti-Semitic that they don't even try and hide it anymore, and I'll prove it to you. Let me just show you something. I'm gonna interject here. Hold on. Just to show you something. Oh, I should have had this ready already. Look at this, guys. What did I say to do? In New York, on the it's a United Nations building. You guys can see that. Okay. In New York, on the site of a United Nations building, Netanyahu's ahead of Netanyahu's visit next week. So next week he will be visiting. Project Israeli Democracy, supposedly, is threatening that this is just a taste of what awaits him when he gets to New York City next week. Quote, "We will be waiting to greet him in the air, on land, and at sea." The United Nations is the most powerful and destructive anti-Semitic institution in the world. And they are projecting a message justifying discrimination against a Jewish state on the United Nations building. I know you can't see it, but it says, "Don't believe Prime Minister Netanyahu," is what that says. I can't get into that, why they're claiming that, but there are some internal things going on in Israel I'll get to it in a little bit. I'll tell you in a little bit. Okay. Iran feels emboldened to get closer to Israel and thinks that they have a chance because first, no one will stop them. That is clear. No one's going to stop them. And second, they believe Israel's current state of internal political discord, which is what I was going to tell you guys, makes Israel weak. This is what they think. But despite what you may hear on mainstream media, despite what you may hear, okay, in Israel's mainstream media, whatever they're saying, because they're probably the same, one and the same. I mean, these big media, they're probably all throughout the world, is probably the same thing. So they're all, little puppets saying the same thing. So despite that, be assured, Israel is not weak, okay? And is not failing in any respect or in any aspect. Common sense should tell you, just put in your little common sense goggles. Why would some of these Arab nations want to have normalizations with Israel if she had nothing to offer them? Besides, the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Force, has stated that they are firm and strong and ready to defend their country regardless of what's being said on the news. Also, the head of the Mossad, in a meeting this week, just like Tuesday or Wednesday, reported that having thwarted and stopped 27 Iranian terror plots against Israel and Jewish targets this year alone, from around the world, still expressed great concern about the Iran-Russia military alliance that seems to be expanding, yet directly threatened the highest echelon of the Iranian regime, because he said that ultimately the Iran Ayatollah is the one pulling the strings to all these terror plots and, of course, to the proxies. Guys, I assure you that Israel will be protected from these nations by the hand of God, and that the pain that will come to her will be during the tribulation, also by the hand of God, for her to turn to him and cry out, Baruch hana b'shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And that will be Jesus' second coming. That's when that's going to happen. But wait, Noelia, you mean these are all signs pointing to the second coming? What about the rapture? I'm glad you asked. The whole reason I make this video and those to come, okay, is to point out how close we are to the tribulation, how we can see the foreshadowing, the shadows, like some brothers are saying, the shadows of the horsemen, okay? We can see them. We're not saying the horses are here, we're saying we can see the shadows of the horses. How close we are to that tribulation and to the second coming, which means if we see how close those events are, you better make sure you're saved, because the rapture happens before the tribulation, which happens before the second coming. There's a time for everything. The rapture has no signs. Okay, it could have happened 1,000 years ago because there's no sign for it. And then, you know, the signs that we're seeing are for the tribulation. That one does have signs. The rapture is imminent and will happen in the twinkling of an eye. I want to say something to you. Let me get my kids for this. Lulu, Maverick, could you please come here? Sure. What's the message that you guys want to give?
One day, Jesus is coming. You may be at church. You may be at work. You may be asleep. God grant that you will be ready when he makes his personal appearance. My God, what if his appearance occurs on a Sunday morning?
My prophetic word to you this morning is
get ready! Get ready! Dun, dun, da, 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 da.
Guys, I know it seemed cute and everything, but the message there is really good. I mean it. I really mean it. You need to be ready. You need to be ready because that is going to happen so quick. Okay. To conclude, I'd like to say that I had made another video, like I mentioned earlier. I had made another video previously recorded on Monday, which contained additional information. Okay, it did have additional information, but yet it didn't have the new information, the additional information I added to this video. It's confusing. I know it's hard for me to explain, but what I do want to say is after I viewed it, I decided against mashing that additional information with this information, although they are related in topic, okay? Very related. I thought it best to make two separate videos. So I decided to shift things around and re-record them separately from each other so that they can be in chewable sizes. I've been so busy with kids, with school, an unrelated Bible study, dance classes, additional research for this video, plus adding the current news from just this week. And I'm just getting to it today. So please pray for me. I do pray that you will listen to that second part because it is paramount to understanding what is going on in the Middle East from God's perspective. Okay, so it's not going to be news updates. It's going to be something I really recommend. Please listen to that next video that I'm going to do probably here in the next few minutes. And don't let anyone, not news, not media, or politician, make you believe otherwise from what God has already ordained and what he has already said is. Be firmly grounded in the word of God, knowing that this information is given to us to prepare us, not to scare us. So be prepared. And I will be seeing you here, there, or in the air. God bless. Bye. Guys, I totally forgot to add this stuff to it. This is what I'm telling you. It's coming in so fast, almost by the minute. I cannot keep up with it. I cannot keep up with it, but I'm trying. I really am. In fact, this that I have right here saved to kind of share with you, I did this yesterday. And just today, more came in that I'm just like, I can't. So I'm really going to have to just, when I text you guys, you're just going to have to take it and then you do your own research. Okay. But I'll just, what I'm trying to do is kind of catch you guys up with stuff, even though I myself can't catch up because it's coming in every minute. Anyway, let me get to it. So, oh, here's a picture of what they were saying, the 400 seconds. I wanted to show you a little bit of a map. I think in that other video that I'm going to do with the additional information, I'm going to be more clear on the maps. Guys, let me just point to something here. Do you see this little, this thing right here, this pointer thing. Do you see this turquoise color? That's Israel, guys. Okay, I don't think anybody has really ever analyzed it. All of this big chunk right here, this orange is Saudi Arabia. This is Egypt. This is Turkey. This is Syria. This right here is Iraq. And this big chunk over here is Iran. So please explain to me. Explain to me, please. More land. They want more land. They want Israel to give up more land. Okay, I was just interjecting there. Let me see. Okay, this one. Iran's plan to turn the West Bank into a terror base. That's their plan. It's printed. Yes. Palestinian terrorists have already turned the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip into a base, firing tens of thousands of rockets towards Israel. Now the terrorists, with the help of Iran, are going to use the West Bank the same way. Okay? Team that up with what we had in the update that I gave you guys. Right here, this week alone, Hezbollah meets Hamas and the Palestinian-Iranian Jihad to unite in terror front and unite in the terror front against Israel. They met this week alone. Everything I'm giving you is this week alone. Here's this. You can see that. It's Iran again. Okay. Iran warns enemies amid arrival of Russian Yak training fighter jet. So Russia is providing them with that. Okay, I won't tell you that. I won't tell you that. Kim Jong-un and Putin meet. Here's the terror air base that they're building over there that I mentioned earlier. This right here is, I don't know if you guys can tell. Here's Israel. This is the West, the so-called West Bank. This little strip right here is the Golan Heights. And this tiny little strip right here, if you can see that, that's Gaza. Okay? So they want Israel to give this up also so that they can just attack her. They also, believe it or not, just today, I found out that just this was back in June, but it was only released because it was done so covertly, that the Biden administration has officially denounced what Trump had already said, that the United States was recognizing Jerusalem as the capital and the Golan Heights as belonging to Israel, whereas Biden backstabbed Israel on that one and says they don't recognize them as being the ones in control of or having those places, and that they see it in the pre-1967 Six-Day War. That is Obama language, just to let you know. Okay, something else I wanted to share with you. Israel practices attack on Iran in Europe. Okay, dozens of Israeli fighter jets plus refueling aircraft and spy planes fly to Greece and back, simulating strike missions with live munitions. All targets were destroyed in the exercise. The two waves of the Israeli strikes on Syria yesterday destroyed a delivery of precision missiles from Iran to Hezbollah that was aimed to be transported to Lebanon. There you go. Hundreds of alerts for terrorist attacks on high alert over the country ahead of the fall holidays. That was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And armed guard will be stationed at every synagogue in Jerusalem. Yesterday, an explosion in Tel Aviv. An explosive device exploded in Yarkon Park. No injuries, thank the Lord. The explosion in Tel Aviv earlier, on yesterday, and the arrest of a group of terrorists on their way there exposed the plot to perform a major terror attack within Israel during the holiday. So there it is. They were warning, be careful, there's going to be attacks during the holiday. And sure enough, there was, but they were able to thwart it. When I was showing you that picture of the United Nations, I totally don't want to forget to tell you guys this. I find this so blatant, okay? The General Assembly has approved, this is regarding the United Nations, regarding Israel, regarding the United Nations and Israel. The General Assembly approved 15 anti-Israel resolutions last year, okay? Versus 13 resolutions criticizing other countries. I hope you understood that. 15 of them, all 15 go to Israel, whereas the other 13 were divvied up with the rest of the nations, okay? Russia was the focus of 6 of those 13, okay? So 6 went to Russia on its, because of its Ukraine invasion. North Korea, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Syria, and Iran, and even the U.S. were hit with one resolution each. One. Guys, Iran got one. Afghanistan got one. North Korea got one resolution. One. Saudi Arabia, China, Lebanon, Turkey, Venezuela, and Qatar, which have poor human rights, were involved in, and they were also involved in regional conflicts, were not even dinged by even one. Those countries, China was not given one, okay? This is just to prove to you, but I really hope you guys understood what I just said. Israel got 15. China got none. Okay? China got none. Iran. Really? Okay. All right, guys. Moving on. Oh, here we go. Here's something you should see. Look at this. Who are they? I kind of wrote their names above it. You have Putin, you have Erdogan, and you have Raisi. Those are the 3 nations of the big ones. You have Turkey, Russia, and Iran. There they are walking together, the prophetic precursors in the Middle East that tell us something is coming. 3 of the 5 nations of the Ezekiel war are already in coalition with the other 2, Sudan and Libya. They are positioned on the northern border of Israel. The protesting nations to the invasion, which were Saudi Arabia and the Arab Gulf states, are developing relationships with Israel. When you combine all these facts, it's like seeing your neighbors box up their belongings or load camping gear on top of the car. You know what's coming soon. I got that from Amir, I believe. And this is something that Amir says. If we are seeing the nations that the Lord will destroy gathered and poised to strike Israel from the north, the protesting nations developing relationships with Israel, and Western Europe rising to power, then we know what is about to happen, even though we do not know the day or the hour. This one came in yesterday. No, actually, I think I did this one this morning. Saudis co-hosting UN event aimed at revamping Israeli-Palestinian peace. Next week's General Assembly organized with Arab League, the EU is latest Raid effort to engage in Palestinian issue amid normalization talks. Israeli and the PA missions were not invited. Even though it's regarding them, they weren't invited. The event titled Peace Day Effort for the Middle East. Peace will take place on Monday. That's 2 days from now. That's going to take place. And it's actually happening in conjunction with the United Nations SDG Summit, okay? On the 18th. Happening at the United Nations next Monday. It's a 7-year rescue plan, guys. The SDG Summit that's happening on Monday. The United Nations is getting together saying, we need to come up with a hard plan, a 7-year plan where we can get exactly the way we want SDGs, Sustainable Developmental Goals, okay? And then at the same time, the Saudi Arabia is co-hosting this event on the sidelines with the United Nations General Assembly for this Palestinian-Israeli thing that I talked about earlier in my video. All right. That is all I wanted to share with you. God bless you. I hope I can interject this somewhere in the middle of the video. Bye.